Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. This is Dr. Elsie Ko, CEO and founder of Lead Physician, here again on a weekly interview series with Dr. Christina Shenvi from North Carolina. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Elsie. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to talk with your group. I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm so impressed with you, and I'm so happy and grateful to have you here. Christina is going to be talking about her article that was just recently published on Kevin MD called How to Almost Never Have a Bad Shift. And let me just introduce you to her. She's an emergency room physician at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where she serves as an assistant professor, an associate residency program director, and also the director of the UNC Office of Academic Excellence. Tell us, Christina, why you wrote this article. If you haven't read it, you guys need to go on there. It's from October 3, How to Almost Never Have a Bad Shift.
Thanks, Elsie. Well, I've gotten more and more interested over the last few years into how can we have better control of ourselves? How can we be less subject to all the external things that are going on in the world, in our shifts, whether you work in a clinic, an OR, or the ER? There are so many things that we can't control. And often we come home and we say, oh, I had a bad shift. It was this or that happened, or this or that person said something to me. And I started to wonder, instead of going into the shift thinking, is this going to be a good shift or a bad shift? Will things run smoothly or will things not run smoothly? How could we go in and a priori say, I am the person who chooses whether this is a good or bad shift? And that is inside my circle of control. And I've gotten really interested in Stoicism, and one of I have to give you this quote. It's so good. One of the quotes I love is from a philosopher named Epictetus. And he said, happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. It is only after you have faced up to this fundamental rule and learned to distinguish between what you can and can't control that inner tranquility and outer effectiveness become possible. And I was like, oh, that is what we need. We need inner tranquility and outer effectiveness.
Right. That's so true. I love that. I mean, everything that you're saying here resonates with me. I love this. Why did you end up writing? Did something happen to make you write this letter, or is this something that you just wanted to get out there to the physicians?
I really wanted to get it out there, and partly I was working on a night shift with a fantastic resident, and something happened that was outside of our control. A very mundane thing that, happens every shift, which is that we couldn't get an elderly patient back to her nursing facility. And the resident was frustrated about this and was complaining about it some, not in a bad way, just, feeling frustrated that he wasn't able to get this patient back to her residence. And I kind of turned to him and I said, here's our circle of control. Getting that patient back to her nursing facility is outside of our circle. And the more mental energy and emotional energy that we expend worrying about it, that's just draining us. It's not actually going to change what happens. And so we often paradoxically relinquish control of what's inside our circle, which are our own thoughts, our emotions, and our actions. And we try to control things that are outside our circle. Things like trying to get processes to happen that we can't, or politics, or coronavirus. We cannot control any of those things. And yet when we consistently and continuously drain our mental energy worrying about them or perseverating on them, we're trying to control things that we can't. And so that interaction, I thought, I wonder if this would resonate with other people. And that's why I wrote the article.
Yep. And you know what? You made a very great point also in that article by saying that by taking control internally of what's going on externally, we become a lot more effective in the external environment. So when I think what you're saying, that there are a lot of things that are not under control, if we keep thinking in that way, we're not going to take steps forward to make change happen. So it's not like, I don't think you're trying to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm putting my hands up in the air and there's nothing I can do about coronavirus. There's nothing I could do with the processes, but instead it's, okay, how am I dealing with this that's going on in front of me? And because I have control and I have that mindset that I have control over my thoughts, feelings, and actions, that I can then be a lot more productive in what and the strategies that I'm going to use to effect change.
Exactly. Totally. I'm not definitely agree. I'm not saying don't try to change things that are wrong. But it first has to come from that place of inner tranquility, and
Yeah.
then you can have the outer effectiveness. But if you try to be effective in the outer world and you're a mess inside, then you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to be frustrated, exhausted, etc. One of the other authors that I love, Viktor Frankl, he wrote a fantastic book called Man's Search for Meaning. And
Yeah.
he was an Austrian neurologist, psychiatrist, and Holocaust survivor. And so lived through just unfathomable conditions. And one of the things that he said is that when you are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. And there's so much about our current situation, whether it's the day-to-day work clinically or whether it's coronavirus and lockdowns, there are so many things that we cannot change about our situation. And so we are forced instead to change ourselves, whether that's through learning to accept difficulties, learning to work through them, learning to have new strength to overcome them. But the goal is always to get that inner tranquility first and then the outer effectiveness.
Right. And it's a matter of just changing your whole perception of what's going on in front of you. Because you can see a situation as being something that is detrimental, that's like chaotic, that's frustrating, that's depressing. Or you could change your mental thought and say, you know what, that's what's going on here, and this is how I'm going to react to it. And I think that's what Viktor Frankl, that's how he survived
Mm-hmm.
that whole, just being imprisoned. He said they can't take away. I think he had like one piece of jewelry left, and they found it on this tiny little ring. They found it. That was the one thing that he owned of that was personal to him. He lost all his family members, but they did. Even when they took that ring away, he said, you know what? They could take everything away physically, but mentally they cannot take what's going on inside.
Yes,
I love that.
exactly.
So let me just
Exactly.
ask you, then the paper, which is so good, is you also you outline three things that really can help you change the way you show up to your shift. And when I say, I know you wrote this kind of in the mindset of an emergency room physician, but this, and we discussed this, that this really applies to all physicians and all circumstances, whether it's in your workplace or outside. I love that. What are the three things that you outlined, and what do they mean?
Well, the first, Elsie, is really maintaining agency or ownership over what we do have control. And what I mean by that is sometimes we'll say things like, this person said something and made me mad. And then we are giving that person power over our emotions. We're saying that person has the power to make me mad, frustrated, etc. Whereas when we say, no, I am in control of my emotions and I get to choose how I respond to that, then we're actually owning and making our circle of control more powerful. And I didn't really go into this in the article, but one of the ways to do that is by really examining and being aware of your thoughts. And the Stoics would call this Stoic mindfulness. And it's different from mindfulness in terms of Eastern meditation, where you're more focusing on breath or body or emptying your thoughts. But Stoic mindfulness is all about observing and becoming very acutely aware of your thoughts, and then being selective, choosing what thoughts you want to entertain. So if I have the thought of, this person said something that was rude to me, therefore they don't like me, or they think this or that about me, and I make that mean, oh, I am such and such, I am not a good physician, or I am not good at that. And so the thought is what then makes us feel bad. So we have in our circle of control is our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And so by first just being aware of them and creating distance between ourselves and our thoughts, then we can be selective about what thoughts do we really want to dwell on or entertain. And that's how we can maintain more agency over our emotions and our thoughts.
So good. And the second thing you said was even out your standard deviation and raise your mean. That
Yeah.
sounds very scientific.
Yes, I'm very much a quantitative and analytical type of person. I'm really not a touchy-feely type of person. So I think about, if you imagine a graph, on the horizontal axis is time, say your days of your clinics or your shifts, and on the vertical axis is your quality of that shift. So there's going to be, some variation day to day of the quality, and some are going to be really bad, some are going to be great, most are going to be kind of average. So you can't say, well, I want to have more above average shifts, right? Because by definition, 50% of your days or your clinics or your shifts are going to be below average. So what can you do? You can raise the mean. So you want to raise that whole graph. And then thinking about also, well, there's a lot of variation day to day. And how can we, by being intentional and maintaining ownership and agency over our thoughts and feelings, how can we kind of even it out so there's less day-to-day variation? So that's kind of what I meant by that, by going into it saying, I will choose to make today what I make of it, not what other
Love that.
people make it for me.
I talk about that in my course as a golfer on the golf course, because I'm a golfer and I'm actually going to
Uh-huh.
golf after this call. But I've seen golfers just, up and down in their moods like this.
Mm.
Whether they hit a great shot, it's like suddenly they're ecstatic. But then like they hit a horrible shot and they're throwing their clubs across the fairway. So so for to be really have fun with golf is also to maintain that even keel, like, I'm going to have a great day despite no matter what
Mm.
the scorecard says. And I love that. I love that graph, that depiction that you made. I haven't heard that, so that's really good. Thanks. And also you said change your own mind as the last part.
Yeah. Yeah, this gets back to what Viktor Frankl said. When we can't change our circumstances, we have to change ourselves. And so
Mhm.
thinking about being intentional with our thoughts, thinking about how do I want to approach this problem? And oftentimes we run against a reality, we run against a challenge in reality. And what we do is then we bang our heads against it repeatedly. So for that example I gave of we can't get this patient home, and then we start to think, I should be able to get this patient home. And that thought is then arguing with reality because the reality is we can't. And so by changing our own mind, it means kind of relinquishing those thoughts that don't serve us, relinquishing thoughts that are not in line with reality, relinquishing thoughts that drain our mental energy. And one of
So good.
the this I didn't put this quote in the article, but it was from Voltaire, and where is it? He says, life is thickly sown with thorns, and I know no other remedy than to pass quickly through them. The longer we dwell on our misfortunes, the greater is their power to harm us. So when we have those difficulties in our day or our shift, it's like we're in a thorn bush. And the more we kind of swing our fists at the thorn bush, the more we get cut up, the more we just suffer. Whereas if we move quickly through them and we say, okay, I accept this was a thorn bush, this is unpleasant, and I can't change this right now, you move more quickly through that thorn bush rather than staying in it and just cutting yourself up.
Same with holding grudges or
Mm.
holding on to, past experiences. As you hold on to it, and the power of forgiveness is not about the other person, but about you releasing that negative energy from yourself
Oh,
instead of
absolutely.
reliving it every day.
That's a great example.
Yeah, thank you so much. So tell the audience, I know you are a coach, you're an academic coach, but I think you are branching out to other things. So tell us a little bit about how people can reach out to you if they're interested in learning more about you and what you
Absolutely.
serve.
Well, I have just launched a website and blog called timeforyourlife.org. And I will be blogging about time management, which, as we were talking about earlier, it's not about managing your time. Spoiler alert, it's about managing your mind and managing yourself. So I go and I'll be blogging about how to do that and some great ideas and quotes from Stoics, quotes from thinkers throughout the ages. And I'm also offering a workshop, which is a really intense 4-week experience that will go into really applying things to people's lives to not just give them information, but help them transform their lives. And this has been so rewarding as I've been working with faculty and other professionals on this in the last few months and seeing people say, wow, this has really changed how I approach my time. This has really changed how I'm able to approach difficult projects. This has changed how I view myself as an imposter or how I think about imposterism. So that is, you can find me at timeforyourlife.org and sign up for the email list if you're interested, or sign up for one of the workshops. I'm offering them in January and February. So it'll be a great way to reset for the new year and really rethink some deep held assumptions or limitations or ideas about ourselves.
So good. Christina, I would love for you to come back and talk to us about how to manage our so-called time or our schedule in our minds. Maybe right before you do launch that workshop to remind people to sign up. So thank you so much for today. I really appreciate it. If you guys enjoyed these talks, please like below, and please, add any questions that you might have for Dr. Shenvi. And we hope to see you every week here on Sunday. Thank you, everyone. Have a happy Sunday.
Thanks, Elsie. It was such a pleasure.
Okay, take care.